As I said, the Docker volume which we created using Docker volume command and the bind mount which we created using mkdir command, that directory, those both are useful just for learning purpose, okay, or for experimenting, or just for creating the documentation and all, okay. But in a production environment we actually need a volume, okay, the third party volume. So as we are using a EC2 instance in AWS itself, okay, so we'll use EBS, okay, elastic block storage itself as a volume, and mount it inside the Docker, okay. So we already created EBS volumes when we learned about AWS. So same thing we'll be doing again. We'll just create an EBS volume and we'll mount it inside the Docker. So let's go to our EC2 instance. Okay, click on AWS icon and search for volumes. Okay, use volumes. There are some other volumes as well. Don't click on that storage gateway or some other. Just click on volumes to cross check. Make sure you are here, elastic block store volumes. Okay, so this 30 GB disk which volume which it is already showing, okay, it is of the DevOps VM. Now we'll create a new volume. I'm creating a volume with just 10 GB, not more. Okay, only 10 GB we are selecting, and make sure the volume is created where your availability where your VM is. Okay, so let's check where our VM is. Sometimes otherwise it will not allow to mount it or attach it to the EC2 instance. So just click on EC2 and check on which region or a zone, or actually in a zone where it is created. So it is already in a US East 1A. Okay, so create availability zone in US East 1A and just click on create volume. Okay, if we refresh the page, okay, so this is the volume just now we created. Okay, and if you see this volume state, it is showing available. Okay, the other volume, that is our DevOps VM, it is in use, and it also shows where it is attached. So the DevOps VM is attached to this instance, that is our DevOps VM. But the other volume which we created just now, 10 GB, it is not at all attached to any instance or any resource. So we'll just select it. Okay, after selecting, click on actions and click on attach volume. Okay, so as of now we have only our one VM, that is DevOps VM. Okay, I'll attach it to it and just select SDF, I guess. Yeah, we can select SDF. If we try to select something else, okay, and click on attach volume, it may give error. Okay, so I know that SDF may be available, so I'm just choosing SDF. Click on attach volume. Okay, so the volume is attached to that instance. Now let's go inside the instance, okay, and run the command fdisk -l grep xv, or let's do hdd. So if I do using sudo, it will give it properly. HDD, it's not giving. So we can also do using dev. Okay, so it is a device. Okay, so every volume or a disk, actually we attached a disk to this instance. Okay, this disk is xvdf. Okay, sgdf we said, but inside it is using xvd. Okay, it is of 10 GB. So one of the command would be fdisk -l grep dev, or if you do fdisk on -l, it will give a long output. Here also, if you see at the end, 10 GB disk is attached. Okay, so this is in the raw format. Okay, we need to format it and then we need to mount it somewhere. So the next thing we'll do the same. So volume is created, the SDF. Okay, now let's use the command sudo mkfs ext4. So sudo mkfs. So we can we can format it with various file system. XFS is there, ext4 is there. Okay, but you should know which file system should be used. So XFS and ext t2, t3 and t4, this is supported by Linux. The others will be mostly for Windows and all, Windows compatible. Okay, means created on a Linux system but also compatible with Windows. So in this case we'll be using ext4. Okay, so we can also use XFS if you want, but let's use ext4. And slash dev slash, take it from here. Okay, so the format is done. If you get such output, that means the format is done. Now we need to mount it. Okay, so we attach the disk, we formatted it, and now let's mount it. So I'm creating a directory called EBS inside slash mnt. Okay, slash mnt directory is already inside the host. Okay, so I've created a directory, and on the same directory I'll mount it. Okay, so the mount is done. We can cross check it using df-h grep EBS. Okay, we can see that 10 GB disk is attached to this host and it is mounted on slash mnt EBS. If we go inside this directory, we can see lost and found is, we can see when we format it. Okay, that is the system directory maintained internally. We can also check using mount command if it is mounted properly or not. Grep EBS. So it will show that XVDF is mounted on slash mnt EBS. Okay, and the file system type is ext4 and we have read write permission on it. Okay, so the volume is created, but still we haven't done anything to attach it to a container. Okay, so now the next command will be using, okay, to create a container and attach the volume which we created just now. Okay, so the syntax we need to remember, copy it in the notepad. Okay, don't you this is coming on the next line as well, so copy it properly. Okay, I'll just press enter. So what we are doing here, we creating a volume. Okay, and it needs some drivers. There are various type of drivers. Okay, we are using the local one. Okay, and we are using which device for the EBS volume. So the volume is created. Okay, but it is using the one which is mounted in slash mnt EBS. Okay, so the device it is considering this directory structure itself has a volume, okay, and we are saying that it is used as a EBS volume, okay, for AWS. So if we do sudo docker volume ls, it will show a volume which we created just now. Okay, so but we created a volume, but using the Docker is not aware about that volume which is attached to the EC2 instance. To make it aware, we need to use this command. Okay, we are saying that use bind it as an EBS volume, okay, and use this device slash mnt EBS. Slash mnt EBS is nothing but an EBS volume which is mounted on this slash mnt EBS. Okay, and we are using local driver. Some third-party drivers are also available which gives better performance. Okay, so we have created Docker volume and we can mount it now inside the container. Okay, so let's check if we have already have any container, but we have already done cleanup, so it won't show any container here which is already there. Just a volume which we created will be mounting. Just use this command. We are mounting it in HTTPD container. So if you see Docker run, name we have given as a web server, using in a detached mode, attaching the host port to the container port. Okay, mapping actually. Then we are attaching the volume, EBS volume, which we created this. Okay, and it will be inside USR local Apache htdocs. So this is the default location for a default index.html file. Okay, so whatever content the website directory content will always be stored in this EBS volume. So web server, let's attach to the web server. Our container is created, docker ps docker exec -it bin bash. Okay. And what is the location where it is mounted? We can check using mount command as well. Mount grep. Let's see if it shows EBS. No, it is htdocs, I guess. Okay, so xvdf is mounted on htdocs. Let's go to this directory, press enter, just do ls. Okay, it has nothing. So various method to check if the current page is listing or not. We use curl localhost, right? We did curl localhost. Curl command is not found. apt get install -y curl. So first time we'll have to do sudo apt-get update, otherwise the commands do not run properly. Sudo won't work inside this container. apt-get update. And now install apt-get install curl. So just do curl localhost. Okay. And if you see, it is giving a web page, but it is not the exact one which we need. Okay, because it didn't get the page. Okay, so it is just showing some index. Okay, in short, it is an error. This is not what we want. And why it is showing? Because we have mounted a volume, okay, and that volume is empty. Even though it is mounted on htdocs, and whatever we write inside the index htdocs will be by default displayed on the screen by a web server. So let's create our cat index.html file. this is my web page and just do enter. Now if I do curl localhost, it will show it. Okay, so we didn't check it from the outside, but even outside it would have earlier given an error. Now if I do curl localhost colon 8080, this is my web page. So we have attached a volume. Okay, data will always remain in that volume even though this container is recreated or it crashed. Okay, then the volume will be always there in that EBS volume even if this host, okay, DevOps VM host is deleted or it crashed, still the data will be in the EBS volume. Okay, so we can quickly check that as well. So what we'll do, we'll just do bash. Okay, let's first check Docker volumes. ls, and we know that it's in var lib docker volumes. Let's become root. Cd volumes. Okay, we have this EBS volume. We can give any name. We have given EBS volume ls. Okay, cd data. Okay, we have this index.html. And again, if we modify anything inside it, okay, it will show it as a curl localhost let's add one line. This is web page to localhost. Okay, now we need to test if the volume will be always there or not. Okay, so what we can do is sudo, we'll just log out and do cleanup. We are doing cleanup only for containers, not for the volume. Okay, we are not deleting the host and testing, so volume we need it on this. So sudo I'll just do bash cleanup. Okay, now as the containers are deleted, if I do curl localhost 8080, it is failing. Okay, and if I do sudo docker ps, we don't have any container running. Okay, now but volume is still there. Sudo docker volume ls. Okay, now let's create a new container, run, but instead of the same name, I'll just give server1. That's it. Okay, but as we are using httpd, the contents means the mapping will be same, only the name is different now. Okay, so let's go inside the container. Here we'll say server1. Okay, let's go to this location cd ls. Okay, so if you see the index.html is still there. Curl localhost, so inside the container it runs on port 80 only. Okay, that's why I'm not using here port 8080. Okay, inside the container again we'll have to install the curl command apt-get update and an apt-get -y install curl. See, even though the container is deleted, as the volume is still there, we are able to access it. Okay, similarly, if I do it from the outside, okay, it will show. Now, even if I delete this VM, okay, we already have this volume. Okay, where it is, this volume is there. Okay, 10 GB volume will be already there, because when we delete a VM, by default it will not delete this volume. Okay, now we can create one more VM, install Docker on it, but the mounting part we'll have to do again. Okay, so creating a volume and mounting, that part we'll have to do again, but the data inside it will remain persistent. Okay,